Today, we're giving up.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Burnt on Religion, the podcast for those who have been burnt, who are currently burning, and those who are trying to avoid being burnt. I'm Ashton, and today's episode is brought to you by Snail Mail. If I give a package to Rusty, you're probably not going to get it in your lifetime. But do you know what's slower than snail mail? Josh.
We've got to get him help.
I mean, he just trashed me and then trashed you.
I thought-
my trash wasn't as bad.
It's never as bad as mine. See, the what surprised me is it seemed like you were going to get the short end of the stick on that one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, it went the other way. And then slapped me.
Pow! Right.
The old bait and switch.
Yeah. Like I thought, oh, Rusty's getting the short end of the stick. And then the other end of the stick just hit me in the back of the head. Thank you, Ashton.
No problem.
Yeah. No more gifts for Ashton. Well, thank you, Ashton, every time for your contributions to this podcast. We really do. It was your original idea to start this podcast, and now sometimes that was the idea, man, right there. That's as far as it went. You know, and you guys want to do a podcast, and then after that, look what he does. No, all the ideas after that just went downhill. So it's still good to have you here. We still love you, Ashton.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, even though you're not getting any more gifts because the back of my head is sore. So the Sermon on the Mount, we made it. We made it all these episodes, and we're finally going to talk about the Sermon on the Mount.
Man. I'm ready for this one.
Did you guys grow up hearing this? By the way, it's 3 chapters long. So if you didn't hear about the Sermon on the Mount, what was going on in your church? Did you guys hear about the Sermon on the Mount?
Don't you beady-eyed me? Look at that.
Sermon on the Mount for me was just the title of Jesus' sermon. You know, that's he didn't even title it that. We did that for him.
We did for him.
You know, the Sermon on the Mount. He was on the Mount, and that's when he preached a sermon. So therefore, we titled it for him. We weren't very creative, but that's the sermon title we gave it: is the Sermon on the Mount. But the Sermon on the Mount to me was a really long sermon that I didn't dive too much into, but the pastor would, he every once in a while, he would venture over into that area. Chapter 5, 6, and 7 of the book of Matthew. That's the Sermon on the Mount. 3 chapters long. You really hope the pastor wasn't going to read the whole sermon during his sermon, because it was just, oh my goodness, there's the blessed are the meek, blessed are the peacemakers, blessed, 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 blessed. So, what did that mean to you guys growing up? Because anytime I heard the Sermon on the Mount was going to be preached on, I went, oh, man.
Well, I mean, we did grow up hearing about this quite a bit, but it was, from my perspective, was the impossible goal. To me, it was, still is, unachievable. And it was one of those, like, why do I bother? Because that standard is way up there, and there's no way I could do that.
But still encouraged.
Yes, highly encouraged, but you're not going to do it. But it's still...
You're set up for failure.
Yes, you should live like this, but you can't.
Okay, all right. So you got all 3 chapters.
Yes.
You got the whole Sermon on the Mount.
Yes.
How about you, Rusty? What was your take on this topic?
It was similar and more of a checklist for Christian living.
Okay.
Yeah. And very similarly to his idea of it, or his take on it. It was you're shooting for the stars. You're going for perfection. You'll at least achieve excellence.
Okay.
You're
maybe not perfection.
Yeah, you're not going to hit perfection. You're not, but it is a standard for you to shoot for.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, it's the idea of I want you to jump 1,000 feet, From here to 1,000 feet forward, I want you to jump that far. Like, well, I can't, but I want you to try. So your goal actually to reach 1,000 feet, or as far as you can? Which one are you supposed to be shooting for? Because you know you're not going to hit the 1,000 feet, right?
Yeah, I guess, hey, 699 is close enough.
Wow, that's a good jump.
Yeah.
That's a good jump.
I might get 4.
Yeah, if I fall down, I did good.
If I fall down,
That's every day for you, Joe.
I've gained 6 feet. Yeah, so.
Right, I got 6 feet.
Yeah.
So, so the Sermon on the Mount is, it's a good sermon. I mean, it's a very good sermon. The problem is it's 3 chapters of no context when we look at the way it's preached. 3 chapters of absolutely no context. like, Pastor, what's the Sermon on the Mount about? Christian living. That's not the context of the Sermon on the Mount. We all grew up with the wrong teaching on the Sermon on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount is one of those places where people either treat Jesus like he's giving spiritual tips, which is basically the idea we all grew up with, is here's your guidelines, here's your spiritual tip. Or they actually let Jesus be Jesus. And that is the Sermon on the Mount. We should be letting Jesus be Jesus here. Just let him say what he's saying, but let's get the context of what he's saying. Otherwise, this is all something to shoot for. It's that jump 1,000 feet goal. You know you're not going to do it, but hey, God, I did 8 feet. Are you still short of what he said to do?
Well, sure.
So are you still a failure?
Yes.
Okay. But what? So you should have jumped 1,000 feet. If Jesus is saying, "Hey, this is what I want you to do," 600 and whatever you said feet. That's an impressive jump, loser.
Second place is first place, or what, the third place loser?
Yeah. So we're still, if we're not hitting that 1,000 feet, we're still short. And this is the standard. I want you to jump 1,000 feet.
Well, what about 1 foot 1,000 times? Might be able to pull that one off.
Yeah, but you never did jump.
It's still technically 1 foot.
Yes, every time. You failed 1,000 times, Rusty.
I just fell short again.
Yeah, 1,000 times over. So let's let Jesus be serious. Let's let him be confrontational, because that's what he's doing in this sermon. Jesus didn't get up to preach a feel-good sermon, or he didn't get up to preach a sermon and say, "Hey, all you Christians out there," which, by the way, at that point there weren't any. They had people that were following Christ, but they were still learning that he was the Messiah. They still doubted the resurrection after the death of Jesus, and that's only a 3-day period, between the death and the resurrection. So they even had uncertainty at that period. After he rose from the dead, we had Christians left and right. I mean, 3,000 added to the church. Even today, we're doing a Christian podcast. 2,000 something years later, we're still following. There are Christians today. So this isn't a sermon about Jesus saying, all you Christians out there, this is what Christian living is supposed to be like. That's not the point of this sermon at all. But that's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was a Christian living sermon. So people see the Beatitudes as guidelines for how they're supposed to live. Blessed are the meek, blessed are the pure of heart, blessed are the peacemakers, and on and on and on. Like, hey, I need to be meek. I need to be humble. I need to be pure of heart. I need to be a peacemaker. These are all things I need to do as a follower of Jesus Christ. Otherwise, I'm going to fail. And then we try to do them and we fail. So not a very encouraging sermon if you're using it for Christian living, because all it does is show you that you're not
failed.
You're not very good at this. So this is what people often overlook. And it's important. And this is a key to so much when you're reading the life of Jesus Christ. Galatians 4:4 says, "But when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive the adoption as sons." When we read the words of Jesus, we have to understand that he's speaking to people who were under that old covenant system. He was born under the law to redeem those who were under the law. So he's speaking to Old Testament people, not New Testament people. The New Testament doesn't actually start until the death of Jesus Christ, and the Bible does tell us that. Hebrews 9:16 says, "For where there is a testament, there must also of necessity be the death of the testator. For a testament is in force after men are dead, since it has no power at all while the testator lives." Jesus' death is the beginning of the New Testament, not that page after the blank page that says the New Testament in your Bible. The one that says Matthew 1, that's not the beginning of the New Testament. The New Testament starts at the death of Jesus. Before that, he's speaking to Old Testament people, and the context is still Old Testament. Because there has to be, like a will and testament today, it's not in effect until
Somebody
the
dies.
testator dies.
Yeah.
Right. Same with Jesus. The New Testament doesn't start until Jesus dies. So we have to understand we are looking at a passage here that falls under Old Testament context, not New Testament context. And that clears up a lot of things. When you see Jesus talking, you're like, hey, now hold on. Is he speaking to those who are under the law, or is he speaking to those under grace? Which one is he talking about? The Sermon on the Mount fits within the context of Old Covenant teaching. Okay? So that'll help us a lot. Throughout this sermon, Jesus quotes the law repeatedly. You have heard that it was said. You know, you'll see that a lot in the Sermon on the Mount. You have heard that it was said, and then he intensifies it with, but I tell you. You've heard it said that it was said that this, but I tell you, and he uses that phrase repeatedly. So he's trying to help people realize that they can never get to God by upholding the law, and they need grace, they need Jesus. That's the point of the sermon. It's the impossible standard. And we all picked up on that growing up. Like the pastor says, hey, you need to go ahead and do all these things. Like, well, I've never killed anybody. But listen to the Sermon on the Mount. Well, I've never committed adultery. Hold on. Jesus got a sucker punch in there for you. Let me do this. So when we look at it and go, hold on, you got the law, thou shalt not kill, and then you got thou shalt not commit adultery. And the Sermon on the Mount is Jesus putting the law on steroids. Like, hold on. Wait, I thought it was bad enough. You know, it was hard enough. And then Jesus takes it to the next level for us. But he's speaking in that old covenant framework, and we have to understand that. Here's a verse from the Sermon on the Mount. We're going to take it from his notes, his sermon notes here. Matthew 5:23. Therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go your way. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift. When was the last time you guys brought a gift to the altar? A lamb? Turtle doves?
Oh, let's see. It probably was
Never.
back when I never.
Back when you never.
Never,
Yes.
yeah.
I've never brought a sacrifice to the altar either. But in the Sermon on the Mount, he's saying, hey, when you bring your sacrifice to the altar, if you remember that your brother has a problem with you, go take care of your brother. You go make sure you're reconciled to him, and then bring your sacrifice to the altar. But we don't do that today. How can we apply that verse to our lives? Well, if we have a problem with our brother, we should go be reconciled with him. We can take that part, but none of us say, all right, now that me and you are good, I got to go find a sheep. I got to bring a lamb to the altar.
I got that goat tied up out there.
Right, I got to go take care of something. So he's clearly speaking to people who are bringing sacrifices to the altar. Remember, it still fits under that old covenant, Old Testament context. That helps us clear up a lot about the Sermon on the Mount if we understand the context. For some reason, that is really important. Context is like, I don't know, really, really important, folks. Context. This hasn't happened since the temple was destroyed. People bringing sacrifices to the altar. AD 70. Nobody's bringing sacrifices to the altar anymore, folks. It's just, we're done. We're done. We didn't do it. We're not doing it. So the setting isn't how to improve your life in the church age. That verse ruins it, because, boy, I'm glad we don't do that in our church. People start showing up next week with sheep. I'm going to find that distracting. Ashton, please don't come to church with a sheep.
I do what I want.
I wouldn't give him any ideas.
I feel like I did. That's why I had to tell him not to. So this is that old covenant framework being fully exposed for what it is. He's exposing the true demand of the heart and motives behind the law. Here's the law. and it tells you do this, do that, and the truth is you guys are going to butcher it anyway. So let me tell you what the law is for. Look at verse 21 of Matthew 25. You have heard that it was said of those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be in danger of judgment. And we say, that's good. And then he puts it on steroids. But I say to you, but I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whoever says to his brother, Raka, shall be in danger of the council. But whoever says, you fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. Hold on. I was okay with not murdering people, but hold on. The standard just went up.
Well, I mean, you look at that and you go, oh, well, I won't call anybody a fool.
Right. Pity to fool.
Yep.
Yeah. So raka actually means worthless. That's because we don't use that word in English. It means worthless. It's treating someone with contempt or being mad enough to kill them. That's the idea. So Jesus here is saying, you've heard that it was said, thou shalt not kill. But if you think about it, you're just as guilty. Hold on, the bar just got raised down to a thought process instead of an action. Hey, if you have that thought in your heart, Jesus makes that sin equivalent with anger. Killing? Yeah. Do you wish he was dead? Yeah. Done. Hold that. Now, wait. I didn't kill him. You wanted him dead, didn't you? Well, yeah, he's a fool. You're in danger of hellfire. Yeah.
On steroids.
On steroids. Yeah, he takes the law and says, you see where the bar is set? Let me explain where the bar really is. It's just to the moon. There's just no way to achieve this standard. So let's look at another one. Chapter 5, verse 27. You have heard. Could you imagine sitting there listening to Jesus? You have heard, and then he quotes the law to them. But I say to you, people are probably in shock. What is this guy doing? We know the law. And he's like, let me clarify that for you. You have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Now,
guilty.
Right? Everybody's like, what did he say? Everybody's just closing their eyes. Don't look around, because we all know that is a temptation that's out there. So adultery was the sin that the law mentioned, and then Jesus just put the law on steroids again. Hey, have you ever committed adultery? Never. I'm good. Check. I'm good. You ever looked at a woman with lust? Guilty. You're hurting my feelings.
Went from flinging pebbles to chucking bricks.
Right. Even if you have lust in your heart, it's the same as committing adultery. So he takes the standard even higher to show you're not good at this. You're super bad at this. I never killed anybody. Did you wish they were dead? Well, yeah, but I didn't kill them. It's the same thing. Did you ever lust after somebody? Yeah, that's the same as adultery. What he's showing is you still have a sin problem at the core, and that's the issue. It's not specific adultery. It's not specific murder. It's a sin issue that you can't overcome. And the standard is overcome it if you want to get to heaven. And but we can't.
Bingo.
And that's the point of the sermon. It's a great sermon. Yeah. It'll preach, and it did. But today, we listen to it and go, okay, that means I got to do more. And I got to be more. Which is exactly what Jesus is telling them you can't do. We messed up again.
People.
Am I right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah. I mean, if you stop and think about it, that pretty much wrecks that whole thing right there. As far as the way we grew up and how we were taught,
Yeah, we're told to try to achieve this.
Yeah.
And Jesus is saying, hey, don't kill. Hey, we achieved that. Hold on, let me show how you didn't achieve that.
Yeah.
It's wait a second. He's pointing out, you've messed up. You're constantly falling short because you have a sin issue. It's not about keeping rules. It's about being sinless. It's about being made whole, washed as white as snow, having your sin removed. You're not doing a good job with that.
The whole heart of flesh as opposed to the heart of stone thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need a heart that beats with life, and you have no life in you. You're born dead in your trespasses and sins, and what you need is life. And what did we do in the 2000s? We're like, okay, Sermon on the Mount is about Christian living. Let's try to shoot for this. And Jesus is saying, you can't hit this.
I'm going to try.
Right. You think you're doing good. Let me show you how you're not even coming close.
Stand back and watch.
That's the point of the Sermon on the Mount, is to show you stop trying to live righteously and be made righteous, and then live out of your love and gratitude, which is living out of your love is righteous living. That is what righteous living would be, because the Bible says love is the fulfillment of the law. So if you want to fulfill the law, live out of that love. That's righteous living. Instead of, all right, am I pure in heart? Am I meek? Am I a peacemaker? Check, 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 check. Oh, wait, lust in your heart. I've just committed adultery. Even though I didn't physically commit adultery, I've committed adultery. And yesterday I killed a guy. Because he was really irritating. It's just showing us that we are always falling short. So then he takes it even higher, because the Sermon on the Mount is so incredible, and Jesus is being very, very serious. And it's a good sermon. He says, love your enemies. Not just your neighbors, but your enemies. I don't know how you guys do with that, but when there is somebody that, well, I've said everything I can say there. But you know those people too.
What?
Not you,
What?
Ashton. I still like you. You're just little Dave Ramage.
Oh.
I meant that in the nicest way.
Oh.
So,
Why are you laughing, Rusty?
I'm not laughing.
he's laughing with you. Ish. So, he says to love your enemies, not just your neighbors, not just your friends, but the people that you despise. Love those people. That's a hard one. That's a hard one to swallow right there,
Yeah.
especially when they truly hate you, and you really don't like them either. You know, like if I never see them again, I'm okay with that kind of feeling. And he says, oh, and make sure you stop by and show them love.
Love them to death.
Yeah, and well, no, I don't think that goes back to that heart condition thing. Yeah, you're back to failure. You didn't make your 1,000 feet.
See?
So what he does is says, here, let me help you out. If your eye causes you to sin, I got one recommendation for you. What's that, Jesus? Pluck it out. Like, I don't want to listen to his preaching anymore.
I'll be blind before the service.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He says, if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. Now, here's one thing that if we actually did apply the Sermon on the Mount to Christian living, you'd identify a Christian that fast. We'd all look like potatoes just sitting there but no eyes.
No eyes, no hair.
eyes, potato. No, we'd just be sitting there with no legs, no arms, no eyes, just kind of sitting there moaning, and they're like, that's a child of God right there. Because they're applying Scripture. None of us are applying the Sermon on the Mount. We just think we are. We think we're living to the standard, but what did he tell us to do?
Well,
Cut your hand off and pluck your eyes out.
I was going to say, we all still have our hands and our eyes.
Right. We're not really applying it. We just think we're doing a good job, which is, by the way, he's so clever. It's very subtle. You think you're doing good. What you're doing is you're performing religion instead of living in a relationship, but we all think we're doing good. So Jesus says, hey, if in your heart you have lust, it's the same as adultery. If you have hatred for your brother, it's the same as murder. If your eye offends you, pluck it out. And if your hand offends you, cut it off. And then he drops one more requirement on them. And it's Matthew 5:48. He says, therefore you shall be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect. Oh, okay. So if the other things weren't hard enough.
Well, that just shot holes in the boat, didn't it?
Is that all, Jesus? Is that all you want? Yes.
It's fine.
That's it. Just be perfect. It's the impossible standard. The Sermon on the Mount is the impossible standard, and it reveals the problem with the heart. You can't do this. That's the point. It's a very demanding sermon. It leaves no loopholes. Yeah, but what if I try really hard? No. Be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. But I can't. Good. Now you understand. That's the Sermon on the Mount. That's the whole point. It requires total perfection. Love your enemies, remove anything that's causing you to stumble, make sure your thoughts and your motives are pure, make sure it's really clean. Always live with complete honesty and integrity. Let your yay be yay and your nay be nay. Yeah, it's got to be perfect. And be perfect even as God himself is perfect. The end. Have a nice day, folks. We'll see you next week. What are you going to do with that sermon? And what we do in churches is we preach this and everybody's like, we will do it. We will, this week we're going to do it. All he's asking you to do is complete perfection. You have one job.
I think at that point I'd have been like, Jesus, can I talk to you in private?
Can we have a minute? And he's like, yes, that's what I want to have with you now. Is I want to have a minute with you to explain you need me, because that's the whole point. But we preach the Sermon on the Mount like, hey, this is the guideline to Christian living. It's our little manual. And I don't know how you guys do it.
I think I fell apart on the first one. How about you?
What was the first one? I just want to judge you a little bit. What is it?
First one, second one, third one. Take your pick.
Yeah, just take them all. Yeah, I failed on
I
a.
fell on all.
Yeah, I jumped my 600 and something feet and realized I accomplished nothing.
Well, even if I made it 999, that last one about being perfect, that sunk the boat there. So,
Exactly. None of us are achieving this. We need grace. We need Jesus Christ, and that's the point of the sermon. So when you look at the Sermon on the Mount, in churches, and I'm sure it's been preached just the last few weeks, so we got a lot of churches out there, and this passage is wide open for the taking. I'm sure it was preached out of context recently. You might be listening to this episode today and go, hold on, that's just what he preached last week. We're not putting your pastor down or anything, but it's a pastor's job just like all of ours. It's to get the scripture in context, and that's why this podcast exists. Yes. But this is a doozy of missed opportunity for context. 3 chapters, like 5, 6, and 7. What are we going to do? We're going to go ahead and preach it the opposite of what Jesus said to do. Well, Jesus is pointing out that you can't do these things, and what are we preaching? Do these things.
Do it all.
Yeah, so I don't know. This one's kind of a humbling. This is kind of a humbling failure on our part. Just, I mean.
Yeah. Well, the fact that, like, even growing up, I never really, unless I flat out knew if, we're talking about Old Testament, New Testament, nobody really explained that this is Old Testament.
No, because New Testament starts after that blank page.
Yeah, and it actually was when I started coming here, and you explained that, like, hey, this is not technically New Testament because, the whole will and testament type thing, connecting those dots.
You didn't die yet, yeah, right.
And it's like, well, none of that all makes sense because, Jesus goes to temples and, when he was angry, he flipped tables because everybody's not using the temple for what it's supposed to.
Right.
And things like that. It's like, it all makes sense because, sacrifices are still going on and things like that. And it's like, man, I don't know whoever decided to say the New Testament starts with Matthew. I don't know. I wasn't around then, but, they should probably fix that. But
how would they do it though? That's the problem is where do you put that New Testament page? Because it's in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and they're in different places. New Testament starts here.
Yeah.
But
so it's like once you say like, hey, this is Old Testament, it's like it makes so much more sense just by saying that.
Maybe just on that blank page that says New Testament, just put a note. New Testament actually starts at the death of Jesus Christ. There you have it.
Yeah.
Just to help out a little bit.
A little bit there. But.
Yeah.
I'm on the same page with him. I never would have. It never was taught that way. It never. I never would have picked that out prior to me coming here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it even happens now. I have all those epiphany moments where you're like, wow, moron smothered in dummy sauce type thing. You know, it really sets in, you know, and you're going, how come I didn't pick that out?
Right. And the truth is, and let me defend all of us here a little bit.
Be my guest.
We're not morons smothered in dummy sauce. We were trusting.
True.
We were trusting those who were trusting those before them.
Sure.
You know, we're sheep.
Yeah.
That's what we are. We follow. We're a bunch of sheeple. And the thing is, we're supposed to keep our eyes on the shepherd and follow the shepherd, not necessarily the under shepherd, which is the pastor. Paul even says, imitate me as I imitate Christ, not imitate me. So it's okay to follow the pastor as he follows Christ, but we're just assuming he is. We're assuming the pastor is teaching context.
Right.
Well, hold their feet to the flame. You know, you should be able to ask your pastor questions. Say, hey, you said this, but that seems to contradict this. Can you explain this to me? It might make them uncomfortable, but that's a good place to be. I was there. I had people ask me questions. I went back and I'm like, oh, I could have been wrong. Then I had to go back to that person like, looks like I was wrong. And that doesn't feel good. So offer them grace. Offer them grace. But this whole Sermon on the Mount, Jesus is basically making the law's demand plain enough. He's making it so plain that it can't be faked and it can't be minimized. Have you ever killed anybody? Nope. Have you ever hated anybody? Yep. Guilty. Move along. Have you ever committed adultery? Nope. You ever had lust in your heart? Guilty. Move along. Are you perfect just as your Father in heaven is perfect? Nope. Move along. You failed. None of you are going to get to heaven based on your works because you failed in so many ways. He's not offering a better technique with this sermon. He's offering the impossible standard. It's don't try this at home. Don't try to achieve this because you can't achieve this. Only God can do this for you. He has to make you new because you trying to make yourself new isn't going to work. He's crushing the ideas the idea that humans can climb to God in any way. If you do good enough, you can appease God. You can get there on your own by your religious performance, and it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. It leaves people with despair over that self-effort. I'm sure people left this sermon that day. I'm like, wow, I'm just a little bummed out.
I'm sure it did take the wind out of a few people.
Yeah, like, wow, I just heard a great 3-chapter sermon. Oh yeah, was it good? It was great. So how are you going to apply it to your life? I give up.
It's the most condemning thing I've ever heard.
That's right. And that's from the man who says, I came not to the world to condemn the world because the world was condemned already. And what's this sermon pointing out? You're already condemned.
You're already there.
You need salvation. You need me. So it leaves people so bummed out over the self-effort. And that's exactly what it's supposed to do. Galatians 3:19 says, what purpose then does the law serve? Remember, Jesus was born under the law to redeem those who were under the law. We read that at the beginning there. So what purpose then does the law serve? It was added because of transgressions, till the seed should come to whom the promise was made, and it was appointed through angels by the hand of a mediator. Jump down to verse 24, it says, therefore the law was our tutor to bring us to Christ, that we might be justified by faith. But after faith has come, we are no longer under a tutor. The law could only take you to the door, but it couldn't take you through the door, and Jesus is the door. That's all the law could do. The law points us to Christ, and that's what the Sermon on the Mount was designed to do, is to show us you're going to need some help because the standard's just so high. It's a very condemning sermon. So I'm just talking today. I'm really humbled by all the sermons I've heard on let's try to live by the Sermon on the Mount. Mm-hmm. You know, it's the one that Jesus preached. We're listening to the words of Jesus here, so we should apply that one. Yeah, we should. But we have to understand the context of what he was saying. Apply it. You can't do it. Bummer. The sermon's just pointing out you're never going to do this, guys. Mm-hmm. So he's preparing people for the message of the cross and the resurrection. Forgiveness is a gift, not a wage. You're never going to earn this. You just can't earn this. What did you earn? Death. Like, that's not very encouraging. Nope. But it is true. Yep, all we earn is death. Paul describes the law in two specific ways, which, by the way, when I learned this years ago, this one was kind of crushing to me. Did you guys learn growing up that the law was something you should try to live by? Ten Commandments, all that.
You mean
Yeah,
kind
the
of like the
pick and
Sermon on the
choose
Mount?
type.
Kind of like the Sermon on the Mount, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so live by the law, because the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul, all of that David wrote about. So we grew up, all three of us were trying to live by the law. Well, when we thought about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you were taught that you weren't saved by law. You were saved by grace. And,
Right.
But then again, that's a good thing to adhere to. You shouldn't kill people. You shouldn't steal people. You shouldn't.
It's still good.
It's still a guideline for you to live your life.
Yes. But then if you go to the Sermon on the Mount,
Yeah.
like I done killed a guy, and I didn't mean to. It's just in my heart. Yeah, Jesus made the standard too hard. He told me to love my enemies, which is really, really hard to do. We're going to need him to help us do that.
Sure.
So I always thought the law was something I should try to live by, unless it was bacon, and then that was a dietary law, not a moral law. So we still divide the 613 precepts of the law, and we divide it into our favorites. These ones we live by. These ones were only for the Jews. Well, the law was never given to the Gentiles. It was only given to the Jews, so they were all for the Jews. But thou shalt not kill seems to be a good one. We should apply that. So we still pick and choose. The Sabbath was for the Jews, but tithing is for us.
That whole, no eating bacon thing.
That was so for the Jews.
Yeah.
Not for us. Yeah, not for us.
Nothing to do with us.
So when you see how Paul describes the law, remember, he's a Jew and a missionary to the Gentiles, so he's covering all the bases here. Look at what he calls the law. 2 Corinthians 3:7 says, "But if the ministry of death written and engraved on stones," that would be the Ten Commandments. That's the only part of the law engraved on stones, is the Ten Commandments. He just called that the ministry of death. "Have no other gods before me, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not lie." Paul calls that the ministry of death. Jump down to verse 9. It says, "For if the ministry of condemnation had glory, the ministry of righteousness exceeds much more in glory." He just called the law the ministry of death and the ministry of condemnation. I never saw it that way growing up.
No.
I would have, if I could go back in time and my parents say, "Hey, you need to try to live by the law." "You mean the ministry of death and condemnation?" I would have so played that card if I had those verses in my arsenal.
Yeah.
And I would have gotten in trouble.
How dare you?
Yeah, but I was like that.
I guarantee you there had been a grounding or something involved with that.
Yeah. I would have been stoned or something, because that was in the law too. So Paul doesn't shine a really good light on the law here. He says it's a ministry of death and a ministry of condemnation. The Sermon on the Mount should never be used to teach Christian living. What's the Sermon on the Mount? Showing that you are condemned. You are dead in your trespasses and sins, because you can't even on a good day do the simple stuff. But I didn't kill anybody. And then he takes the standard up for you, oh wait, I killed 3 people. It's just changed. Today. While you were talking, while you were preaching your sermon, I looked over and I killed that guy right there. And I think he killed me back. That's just where we are in our relationship. So you look at it, you're like, man, it's just impossible. And then you're like, wow, okay, I can get over the killing thing. And he says, oh, but be perfect just as your Father in heaven is perfect. Okay, I quit. Today, we quit. That's how we started the episode, and that's what we should see the Sermon on the Mount as. It's actually a sermon about how the law is the impossible standard. Jesus says he came to fulfill the law and the prophets, and he warns us that entrance into the kingdom requires righteousness that exceeds the best religious performances out there. Here it is. It's in the Sermon on the Mount. chapter 5, verse 20, it says, "For I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven." Now, the scribes and Pharisees were the people they looked up to. If you want to know how to live righteously, look at the scribes and Pharisees. They're the religious elite. And Jesus says, you need to be more righteous than them, or you're not getting heaven. So immediately, that tells you something. Their righteousness isn't getting them to heaven either. Like, wait a second, that bar's too high. And if I don't exceed that bar, I can't get to heaven. I really need help. That's what this whole sermon's about, is you really need help. We're going to hit a couple more things here. Just let's stir the pot a little deeper here. Even the Lord's Prayer is in the Sermon on the Mount. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. You know that's in the Lord. That's in the Sermon on the Mount. And the Lord's Prayer teaches forgiveness only in proportion, which no one can satisfy. Look at this, Matthew 6:12. It says, "And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors." I'm sorry, I don't want God to forgive me on that standard right there, because some people can't even make it right. What they did to you is so wrong. Human trafficking. Human trafficking. Hey, by the way, ask God to forgive you the way you're going to forgive that guy that did that to you. I don't want him to forgive me like that. It's the perfect standard. And we can't do it. We can't do it. None of us would ever want God to forgive us the way we forgive our debtors. I mean, the most vile crime committed against us, we would not want God to forgive us on that basis right there. In Ephesians, it says to forgive one another even as God in Christ forgave you. The script is flipped. I want you to forgive them the way he forgave you, not he's not going to forgive you unless you forgive him, or you want him to forgive you the way you forgave them. Under the law, yeah, that's the standard you'd have to do it by if you want him to forgive you, but that's not how it works under grace. Why don't you try to forgive them the way God already showed you forgiveness? That's how you need to live. The law says that if we were to obtain righteousness by the law, we would need to forgive others perfectly in order to receive forgiveness ourselves. Grace says forgive others the way God already forgave you. Wait, I'm already forgiven? Yes. Now, reflect that. Just reflect that. Look at the standard Jesus drops right after what we call the Lord's Prayer. Okay, we gave it that title. Chapter 6, verse 14, it says, "For if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive men their trespasses, neither will the Father forgive your trespasses." I don't want to live under this standard. I don't want that. It's too much for anyone to bear. This is the impossible standard. We're not working our way to God or favor with God. So let's go ahead and break down. We got a few more minutes here. Let's break down the blessed are the poor. You know, the part that we hear about in the Sermon on the Mount? It's in the same sermon. And now that we see the context of the sermon, let's look at these passages here. Blessed are the poor in spirit. That's Matthew 5:3. Poor in spirit means you can't fix yourself. So you come to God empty-handed. Remember, that's the point of the sermon. So he's saying, that's what I want you to be. I want you to be poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Matthew 5:4. It's the grief of someone who recognizes what sin is and wants reality and truth and God. I'm mourning because of my situation. Can you change my situation? Yes. Blessed are they that mourn. Blessed are the gentle. Gentleness is strength that doesn't have to dominate. It's not my works. It's his work. It's the Spirit leading. It's not trying to defend yourself. Hey, I'm doing good. I'm doing better. I'm not. No. You have that meekness, you have that gentleness. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. There's a hunger for God's righteousness, and God meets that hunger. Now, hold on, check this out. It says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. But doesn't Jesus also say he's the bread of life and he's the water of life, and him who comes to me will never thirst again?
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that would mean we don't hunger for that or thirst for that once we have it. So this can't be about Christian living. So it's saying those that hunger and thirst for righteousness are those that want Jesus, not those that have Jesus.
Yeah.
Because the ones that have Jesus will never thirst again. So it kicks the Christian living context right out. We can't have it. Blessed are the merciful. Mercy grows from experience. God has treated me kindly and justly, therefore I can extend mercy to others. Blessed are the pure in heart. We get a new heart at salvation, a new heart and a new spirit, according to Ezekiel 36:26. New heart and a new spirit, which is pure. We received that pure heart. So blessed are those who are saved, Blessed are the peacemakers. These are the ones who reflect Christ's character. That's what we're doing. We're called into the ministry of reconciliation, bringing people to God. The Beatitudes teach that the kingdom of heaven belongs to the humble, God-seeking people whose lives reflect the character of God. That's the point. And it's a really good sermon. A really, really good sermon. Because God's bringing his rule through the Messiah, not because they've achieved righteousness by law keeping. That's not the point. It's that they have Jesus. That's the blessed are verses. So that clears up the Sermon on the Mount. Well, hopefully it does. If you see it any other way, let us know. But that's 3 chapters of in your face. Don't try to live by this. Don't try this at home sermon. And in our churches we hear, go try this at home. It's just messed up.
This is the standard by which you should live.
Right.
Or try to live.
Not going to happen. We're just going to fall short. So when you read the Bible, read it in context. When you read anything before the death of Jesus Christ, read it in the context of the Old Covenant. I mean, Jesus is talking to people that are under the Old Covenant, pointing them to the New Covenant. So you have a little bit of a blending there, like a transitional. This is what, you worship in this temple or worship on this mountain, but I say to you, there's a time coming when God will not be worshiped in a place, but worshiped in spirit and truth. So you can see that he's transitioning people to the new covenant, but he's speaking to people who are under the old covenant. So we've got to read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John as old covenant, and then later on in Matthew, Mark, and Luke and John as new covenant, because after the death of Jesus, that's when it switches. So Jesus even tells us, this is the New Testament in my blood. That's where it starts. So hopefully this helps people out. But if you've got topics, by the way, give us some more topics. We do love what we do here. Send us some more topics. Just like, hey, I got questions about this or that or the other thing. Send it our way. We want to make it an episode and help people out. Help us help you. We want to do this. And by the way, when you give us those topics, you may be helping us. It may be something we didn't look into, and that'll help us grow also. So please communicate with us. Questions at burntonreligion.com. Just write to us there. We will look over the emails, and we'll get back to you. We'll at least let you know that we got your email and that we're working on it. But then later, maybe we can make it an episode. So, you guys have anything to add to the Sermon on the Mount, or seeing it this way? What's it do to you? What's it? What
Rusty?
Rusty, Ashton? We're going to sit here and drink a beverage.
No, seeing it this way, definitely, I would have to say, if I'd have had the context of the fact that Jesus was speaking to, in an Old Testament sense, to Jews of that time period, as opposed to it being taught and you trying to live that as a Christian of today, I hate to say it has saved me a lot of wasted time.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, there was times in my own life, I went ahead and used those things and compared myself to them, trying to live by that standard, and am I checking the boxes?
Yeah.
Am I doing this and that?
And you just feel shamed because you can't do it.
And I never was able to do it.
Well, thank God for grace. It is amazing.
Absolutely.
And so everybody, keep it in context. Keep it real. real in context. So write to us. Let us know what you want to talk about. We want to talk about it too. And also just keep sharing this podcast with people. We have hundreds and hundreds of listeners, and that's because of word of mouth. So thank you for what you do. We have people that just signed on. They're new listeners even as of this week. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Go back and listen to episodes. BurntOnReligion.com. You can look at every episode we've ever done. And we just hope it's a blessing to you. Just get out there and help us get the word out. And we do appreciate what you do. So that's all we have today for this sermon. And I got to go work on another one because Sunday's coming. So, that's all we have for today. Just come back and see us next week. And thank you again for all you do. We do appreciate you. Have a good one.